What's going on, everybody? Jason Frausto for TennisUnleashed.net, and welcome to this episode of The Breaking Point. We are going to preview the 2023 U.S. Open semifinal between Daniil Medvedev and Carlos Alcaraz. To find out who I think is going to win this match, stay tuned. It's coming up next. All right, guys, so let's take a look at why both players got here to begin with. Carlos Alcaraz, world number one, coming off his win at Wimbledon, right? Beating Djokovic in the 5-set final there. Very close match, very, very well played, and great displays of athleticism from both players. And then had an epic battle between the two of them in the Cincinnati Masters Series final. That match was almost 4 hours long for just 3 sets. It was super competitive, right? These guys are really battling. Alcaraz's record this year is 56-6. He's coming in red hot. And if we look at Medvedev, right, world number 3, currently 49-11 on the year, little weaker on clay surfaces, but an absolutely tough opponent on anything that's a hard court, right? So Daniil's been playing very well. Let's take a closer look at how both guys got to the semifinal. If you look at the first round match for Alcaraz, right, Dominic Koepfer in the first round wins that handily 6-2, and then we're at 3-2 up a break in the second, and Koepfer has to retire. Going into round 2, Alcaraz versus Lloyd Harris. This is the first time Alcaraz had even a slight challenge, right? Blows out Harris the first 2 sets, 6-3, 6-1, and then wins the third set in a closer tiebreaker, 7-6. Going into the third round, Alcaraz gets challenged a little bit more. The crafty veteran Dan Evans from Great Britain, right, with the one-handed backhand and a lot of slice, has a lot of variety and a pretty big forehand, and Evans moves very well. This was a little bit more competitive at 4 sets, with Alcaraz winning 6-3 in the 4th set. And then Alcaraz took out the young upstart, right, Matteo Arnoldi from Italy. That was pretty straightforward, 6-3, 6-3, 6-4. And then finally, Alcaraz just took out Alexander Zverev in the quarterfinals, and he did this pretty routine. A lot of really good competitive points, but again, straight sets for Alcaraz over Zverev. Has a very good matchup with Zverev. And again, we don't want to look at results from 2 or 3 years ago before Alcaraz was who he is now. We want to look at the most recent matchup, and Alcaraz did blow him out in Madrid just a few months back. So again, Alcaraz takes out Zverev here pretty comfortably in straight sets and is now in the semifinals against Medvedev. But how did Medvedev get there? Medvedev had a very easy first round, beating Attila Balazs, right? In the first round, 1-1-0. That was a non-competitive match. Very quick, very painless for Medvedev. Then he moves on in the second round over Christopher O'Connell. That one, he dropped a set. O'Connell had a nice win in the first round versus Max Purcell. And then Medvedev plays him and beats him in 4 sets, O'Connell grabbing 1 set. Now we go on to the third round, right? We get Medvedev versus Sebastian Baez, who won Winston-Salem coming into this event, but comes up short against Daniil. This was pretty routine, 2-2 and 6. The only competitive set truly was that third set. We go into the fourth round, right? Alex de Minaur has been very good this summer. He grabbed 1 set against Daniil. It was the first set pretty convincingly, 6-2. But de Minaur had said, hey, I kind of lost my legs in that match against Medvedev, right? The rallies were so long and so competitive. He literally took my legs away from me, which is saying something because Demon is in tremendous shape. But Daniil grabs that match in 4 sets and then moves on to play Rublev in absolutely brutal heat in the quarterfinals. And people wonder, what is brutal heat? Well, we're talking New York City, 94 degrees, I believe the air temperature was. Who knows what the heat index was, but that is very, very hot. And I think the humidity levels also were pretty high, but he took Rublev in this match 4-3-4. It was fairly competitive considering the conditions, right? And these guys had a lot of points that were actually over 9 shots long in this match. So it was absolutely brutal conditions to play in. If you've ever played in heat that was 90 plus degrees with relatively high humidity, if you played in Florida in the summer, for instance, or the late spring or early fall, you know what that heat feels like. It's similar conditions to what these guys experienced a little bit in New York City, Florida, probably a little bit hotter than that in terms of humidity. But it is absolutely brutal if you're not used to the conditions. And a lot of pros, even the foreign pros, will train and do some time in Florida to get accustomed to that type of heat. That gets them ready for US Open Hard Court Series events. all summer long. All right, so now let's get into their career head-to-head, right, and what's going to kind of shape this entire battle besides playstyles. Alcaraz leads this 2-1. The last win for Medvedev was back in 2021 when Alcaraz was just 18 years old, I believe, at the time, and Medvedev beat him on grass at Wimbledon. Now, fast forward 2 years, Alcaraz has definitely shifted the tide quite a bit and now really owns Medvedev in the head-to-head. The last two matches were very convincing in Alcaraz's favor, right? Really kind of thumping him at Wimbledon just about a month and a half ago. And the reason for that is just the stylistic matchup. We've talked about stylistic matchups and how one player might be a little bit better than another, potentially overall in the tour, but matchups are key. Now, I'm not saying Alcaraz is the weaker player than Medvedev on the tour, but an example of this would be Elena Ostapenko's career head-to-head of 4-0 over Iga Swiatek. She just beat her in the US Open and caused another upset, but is it really an upset when that player has a style of play that matches up well against you? And that's what Ostapenko has against Swiatek. She plays very aggressive, is able to jump on top of Swiatek early on in the points and really not give Swiatek the chance to breathe. She just matches up favorably with her and likes the way that she plays against her, so she doesn't view it as much of a threat, where other players will really struggle against Swiatek. The same is true of Alcaraz. It's for different reasons. It's not for a pure power type of thing. It has to do with Daniil's positioning really in the beginning of the points. Daniil likes to stand really far back behind the baseline in what I like to call a zone 5 position, which is back close to the wall to return serves. Alcaraz has a very well-rounded game. He volleys really well. He hits excellent drop shots. He takes time away from opponents well, and he hits very heavy and creates angles off short balls and does basically anything he wants with short balls. Now with Medvedev, way far back in the court, right, in that zone 5 position, far back by the wall, it opens up all of these opportunities and makes it easier for Alcaraz to execute each one of these shot types if he wants to or if the situation prevents itself. On top of that, besides that factor of Alcaraz being able to do a little bit of everything so well, Medvedev hits a very flat ball, and Alcaraz is not the tallest player on tour. He's around 6 feet tall. Medvedev's ball doesn't really do anything as far as getting up on Alcaraz and taking advantage of Alcaraz not being the tallest player on tour. So Alcaraz gets a lot of balls in his strike zone, which for most players is basically between knee height and shoulder height, with the vast majority of those basically being from your waist up to your shoulder. Alcaraz is seeing ball after ball after ball in the strike zone, and he's able to really tee off with power with those shots, or he's able to drop them short and use a lot of touch, or also throw in serve and volley and really take it to Daniil and play a lot of balls in the front part of the court in zone 1 and basically drop it in front of Daniil and say, I know you can't get to these balls, or even if you get to them, you're not going to do anything tremendously well with them. So I'm going to exploit this part of the court because you're standing so far back behind the baseline. Now, Daniil's other option, right, is to move forward and try to take a more aggressive position closer to the baseline and take away a lot of the shorter balls. The issue Daniil then has is Daniil doesn't have as much time to react to Carlos's big serve. He's got a very big serve for a guy that's 6 foot tall. And then Daniil will end up hitting a lot of returns that are shorter in the court. And because he doesn't play with a lot of topspin, all these balls are landing in Carlos's strike zone. And then Carlos, right, is able to kind of step up and really dictate and paste forehands and backhands and really put Daniil under a ton of pressure. This is just sort of Daniil's worst matchup. Somebody that can serve and volley, somebody that has incredible touch and drop shots, and then somebody too that has incredible topspin and hits super heavy and could do damage to Daniil's otherwise almost, Great Wall of China impenetrable backhand that nobody else can really seem to hit through. So Alcaraz too, just if they get in a neutral rally from the back of the court, he has this titanic heavy topspin forehand that he can take to Daniil's backhand. And when he takes it to Daniil's backhand, he's able to do a significant amount of damage. Djokovic can't even really do that with Daniil. He'll get in the back of the court with Daniil on a hard court, and he has a really tough time hitting through Daniil. So Alcaraz is able to do that from the back of the court, really hit through Daniil's backhand and do damage there, draw short balls, and open up the court. It's something not a lot of people can do, right? Daniil's 49-11 on the year. He has an incredible backhand, but he doesn't play heavy. He plays far back in the court, and all of these factors play right into Carlos Alcaraz's hands. So I've got Alcaraz in this matchup, minus some type of serving performance from Daniil that's really solid and really incredible. I'm taking Alcaraz here in 3 fairly comfortable sets, at least 1 break probably per set. And if Daniil serves extremely well, he might be able to steal a set in a break or maybe come up with 1 break in a set. I've got Alcaraz here hitting very heavy and doing damage to Daniil from the back of the court, regardless of what Medvedev does, because Medvedev just simply doesn't play with enough topspin and a heavy ball to do anything really significantly to Alcaraz. So minus Daniil coming up with a heck of a serving performance, I see this as a 3 straight sets match, possibly a 4 set if Medvedev was to serve incredibly well. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this episode of The Breaking Point, right? Carlos Alcaraz versus Daniil Medvedev, a preview and analysis, and my pick of who I thought was going to win the match. If you found this video helpful or you feel like you learned something today, make sure you smash the like and subscribe button. It helps this channel continue to grow. Also, if you want to see more episodes of The Breaking Point, leave your comments below. Come up with your own ideas of topics to talk about, and I will happily go through those things. I'll see everybody next time. I'm Jason Frausto for TennisUnleashed.net. Enjoy the rest of the US Open.